those that don't know me, my name is Christina, and I'm going to be teaching this lovely fun fold class. So I'm going to show some examples that I've been working on through the day. This may give you guys a different idea of what you want to do or change up your idea using any scrap paper that you may have or kits laying around. So a few ideas is I had a bunch of paper kits that I got from various craft stores, and they usually come with a sheet full of tags and little sentiments like this. So those are a nice thing that you can use for the closure on the card. Use up those pieces, even if it's without a stamp on it, you can use that for your closure on your card. So if you think about all the card kits that you have, I'm pretty sure there may be some pieces that you haven't used or fun papers that you'd like to use. I also have a card paper pack here that this one came from Michael's. And that's where I'm using the card today. So you have your paper and you always have those sheets with circles or different shapes. And you will have usually a couple pages of squares and sentiments like this that you can cut up. If it's a 3x4, that works perfect, even smaller. So those are in the big card packs. So a few of the variations that I've done today is just, again, with the coffee theme, with my paper, the closure of your choice, and then I added a sentiment stamp here. I've done another one with paper from that paper pack, same background paper, and just another square sentiment, no stamping, nothing involved at all. Quick and simple cards. A nice variation. The card will measure the same 5.5 by 4.25 regular standard card size. Here's another one from that beach theme paper. I just used one of the tags, added a sentiment to it. I used it without cardstock on the back, and then just a quick fold, just a closure. Here's another one, just the same basic paper. This card piece was from a project journaling kit. Again, there is no stamping involved in this. You can stamp on it if you'd like to, but you don't have to. And then you just add the base. Another one, just the paper. I stamped embossed on it, added as a closure, added some items, and it was the card. And the one that I posted for the class was this one. I punched this, stamped it, and then just did a square background, so it had more of a base. When you're looking at the cardstock that you want to choose, because we're going to be cutting it on the one side, you can have a picture, a full picture if you wanted to, that will just be cut in half. So you want to keep in mind when you're where you cut it, that the picture lines up. So we'll go over that. So the first thing that you want to do, if you haven't already.
Those are all beautiful, Christina.
Oh, thank you. Is grab your 8.5 by 11 paper if you haven't had it cut. So what I've done is I marked it for class purposes, the short side on the left and the 11 inches across. So you just pretty much want to cut down. So you have two 5.5 sheets. So your regular bases for cards. If you choose to cut it this way, 5.5, you're only going to get one card, but you'll have room for some bases for your closure. So turn it around like that, and you would like to cut your 8.5 by 5.5. So I'm just going to cut that right now. So on my cutter, my 5.5. So you'll have your one sheet, 8.5 by 5.5. So the next thing you want to do with this piece, as per my lovely chart here. So when you're looking at it, again, 8.5 across the top and 5.5 on the side. You want to get out your scorer, and you want to score it at the 3-inch line and the 7.25 inch line. A tip to scoring your cardstock is when you score and your scoring goes in, you don't want to fold it towards you. You want to fold it away from you. And that prevents the paper from ripping because you already put stress on the paper from scoring. So you want to fold away from you. So the card, once you fold it, it's going to be upside down. So I will show you. I'm just using my cutter here, the scoring blade on it. So I'm going to measure to the 3-inch mark. Make sure you score it and don't cut it, because I've done that plenty of times. And at the 3-inch mark, we'll score and just slide it right across to your 7.25 and score. Don't cut. So probably can't see that, but I haven't folded it yet. So the grooves go in. So fold it away from you. Less stress. Get your paper folder out. I put everything so nicely right here. Out. So it's upside, your card is upside down. And then when you flip it over right side, the 3-inch flap will be on the left and the 1.25 inch will be on the right. Don't worry if it overlaps slightly. We'll just place the top one over and you can adjust accordingly. So that is the base. Is there any questions on the base? Everybody's good to go? We'll do it again. So for your next piece of paper, I didn't want to give the measurements to cut it just in case there are some mistakes, because I've done plenty of those. So your initial card measurements, the pattern paper on here, the original is going to be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So depending on the picture that you want, this is the full picture. What we want to do is cut 1 inch off the right hand side looking at it. So this is why if you pick a nice pattern paper with an image on it, you want to make sure you cut it correctly on the score. So I flip it upside down and cut because I have an inch cutter on this side, or you can just slide it through to cut an inch off on the right hand side and just cut your inch off. So you'll have your 2 pieces there. So this will be 2 3/4 and this will be 1 by 5 1/2. 5 1/4, sorry. So back to the card base. So like regular card, we'll just glue this on, leaving your spacing around there. So just center it. We'll glue it down onto the cardstock here. Eyeball method. Put it in the center of your 3-inch. And then you'll take your 1-inch strip. And align it in the center of that side and just align it across. If it's a little bit off. You can edge your pattern paper if you want with a sponge for that vintage effect, but not necessarily. So this is the base of your card. You should see the full image when you fold it over in that. For the closure itself, I left this open because it could vary between what you want to do. If you want to stamp an image or cut a piece of paper out. So size on this side doesn't really matter. However, you want to make sure it is not too big where it covers the whole inside of the card. So this piece of paper that I cut from the sheet will not work. So a smaller piece would be this size. So what you can do is when you cut it, you can glue it on without any cardstock, but I like to glue cardstock underneath it just to give some strength and give my little border of a coordinating color. That is one option. Another option is punch. So if you want to stamp and punch and cut. So here is a coffee cup that I've stamped and cut. You can use this. It's a different shape. You can add it to a square and put it on there. There's your sentiment. You don't have to add any other sentiment on there for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use but first coffee. I'm just going to cut a base. So if you did cut your cardstock wrong, you'll have enough for a coordinating color that matches. If not, excuse me, you can use any other cardstock that may coordinate with your card. So let me just grab from my scrap pile of paper. So I'll just be coordinating it with a brown color because coffee, you gotta have it nice and dark. And because I'm using the eyeball method for this, I'm just gonna, like any good scrapbooker would, is just eyeball it to get the right measurements to put a cardstock underneath it. Again, you're just using scraps of paper you have laying around. So this is a good opportunity. So I'm just gonna cut this guy 3 by 3 1/4. So all this coordinating cardstock here. Make sure that looks all right. Look, I like to give it a little border on there. That works for me. So I'm going to glue this to my cardstock. You can round the edges if you want. When you see the finished product of one, you'll see different options that you can whip up into other cards. So for this closure, because this piece is a little bigger, I can have it almost centered onto my card. Doesn't matter where you have it. If you want it off center, it will still look fabulous. But because of the size, I can have it centered. As long as you have at least ½ an inch over on this side to keep it closed, there should be no issues. You can have more off center. There's nothing wrong with off center. For this one, I will do center. So I'm going to glue this on to the 3-inch side. You can use pop dots to pop it up or just glue it flat. Keep it in mind, you don't want to glue on this side. So eyeball method, you know, 3/4 of an inch, no glue. So you just want to make sure you have some glue on this side to put it down. So I'm going to just use some dimensionals because we were talking about them. And about 3/4, so I'll just move it over here. Eyeball it back up to be around center. Put it down there. And there's the card. And for your inside, you can cut a piece of paper, white cardstock or white paper. I do have some recycled note paper that I put in them. So for the center, because this is a 4 1/4, you just cut a piece of white paper from 4 by 5 or smaller if you want, whatever you have. Post-it note. If you're giving it to someone, I like to put post-it notes in there so they can reuse the card. And then you just glue the white card. Another option, I can get the measurements. If you don't want to glue this on, I've seen people use a belly band. They've made a belly band out of cardstock and they've just put their sentiment on a belly band and slide it up for a little more fancy, maybe a wedding card, something like that. I didn't make any today, but just a simple fold and then open and close like that. Is there any questions? Unmute yourself if you have any questions. We can do another one here. But again, using the scrap paper that you have, you can use a full sheet and get some cards done.
I think that's beautiful, Christina. You did a great job. Maybe it'd be a good idea for you to do one more and just talk about it as you like walk your process as you go through it again. Just do one more, but it's awesome.
I can do that. So what I'll do is I'll just grab another piece of paper, stuff that I have laying around. I have lots of paper laying around, so I'm just going to grab some random so you can see how random this could be created without any thinking about what you got going on. And trust me, there's a lot of cardstock and paper in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab I'm going to use this dog paper that I have that we use for a shaker cup or a shaker card. I'm going to also grab some coordinating cardstock. So this I'm just using a gray cardstock here. So, and this is from Echo Park, this paper. I love my dog. So I'm sure Lacey will be in here shortly because I'm talking about her now. All right, so the first step is, again, to take your 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I guess my camera's too close. And we're gonna cut it as if you would a normal card base. And we're gonna cut it to 5.5 inches. So I have two cards on this one. now that you have your card base, we'll score it at the 3-inch mark. And at the 7 1/4 mark. Oh, see, we're making a mistake. I'm cutting it. So this paper is no longer good to me. It would be for another card, but we all do this. So this will be my card base now for the top. And I have my second backup sheet that I just cut. So starting again, score at the, get my cutter out of the way. So a scoreboard would be nice. We're going to score it at the 3-inch mark and score, not cut, at the 7 1/4. After you've scored it, fold it away from you, fold it down just so there's no extra tear. If you do score it towards you, there's no issues with that. You just may see some of your paper rip, and it will be more weak because you're now bending it the opposite way. So there's my card base, 3-inch on this side and 1 1/4 on this side. Now I got my full pattern of paper here. So it's going to look lovely because we're going to have a full picture in there. So I just have to decide what is the actual picture that I want, but it's a full pattern paper. If you have paper that is a huge flower, that would be beautiful. Then it just cut a little bit. So I'm just going to cut my paper on here by 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. Wait, yes. See, I'm already. Five and a quarter. I have to get some trimmed down. 5 1/4 and 3 3/4. So then we'll have these 2, 3, 4 cuties in the card base here. So now that this is 5 1/4 by 3 3/4, we're just going to cut that inch off the right side. So kind of worked perfect. Getting the one guy's head at least in on that side. So we have our 2 pieces. Let's get my cutter. All right, so we're going to take our 3-inch, or sorry, our 2 3/4 inch piece. Just going to glue them. Glue them to our cardstock. Glue our 1-inch piece. To the outside piece. Line that guy up. I mean, this card is just as beautiful just to give this to someone and have a sentiment without a closure. So that is an option as well. Just open it. So we're going to make a nice closure of something. So since this was just randomly pulled out of my stash of paper, I will see what I got here. So if you have an oval cutout, you can throw that in there with a sentiment. I have a bag of sentiments, a bag of random items. So when I'm stamping a whole bunch of items and I only use a few, I just put them in a baggie because you never know when you're going to need something. You can also fussy cut one of these fabulous dogs from this cardstock or your cardstock. The endless possibilities Christmas cards, super simple. If you just want to use a sheet of DSP, designer series paper, pattern paper, anything that you have. So these are all just random pieces that I've had. Well, dog, I have some hearts. My greatest adventure. Well, that's true for a dog. I have some pre-stamped donkeys and other stuff. So I do have some dogs that I've pre-cut in here. So I'm just gonna dig one of these dogs out. And I already had, I made some projects at Christmas time with dog and dog treats. And this was a stamp that I had, keep calm and wag on, with the dog. So I think that would work perfectly for this type of card. So I'm going to use it. I'm just going to, since it's a white closure, I'm not going to add an extra punch. I'm just going to ink the border. So you don't actually have to do any stamping with this card whatsoever if you have stuff laying around. So I'm just going to ink my edges here. Ink my edges. Oh, got some red nose. I just did red coordinating color. All right, so this is not big enough to go right in the center of the card. So I'm just gonna put him offset and we'll just put him at the bottom here. So keeping at least ½ inch on this side. So when I glue them, I'm not gluing on the other side. If you do accidentally glue some that will be exposed, you can take some baby powder and just rub it with your finger to get the adhesive off. So I'm gonna add some glue. All right, I don't want to cover his face, but I think I'm gonna have to cover some of his beautiful faces. I checked, I don't have any glue on the back. So there's my card. So I'm just gonna grab a piece of white paper. You can, instead of using cardstock for the center, I would just use photocopy paper, printer paper, so you're not wasting your good cardstock on it. And we're going to just cut a piece. Inch by 5.5. It's up to you. And we'll just glue and then insert. Many, many years ago, I was able to find a company that sold these Post-its like this, and it says recycle, regift, resmile, remove the top sheet and resend the love. So I'll have to check to see if this company is still in business. iresmile.com. So for this card, you can get them this way, and they did have some available going the other direction for cards. But since I don't write in my cards anyway, sometimes I would just flip them up and just use it. They can see you want to reuse your card. So as you can see, lots of different variations, how to use scrap paper. Flipping this up, all my leftover projects. I mean, if this was a fun sheet, I could use donkeys. So Christmas cards, you know, I can slap a big old donkey on there and put a Santa's hat on there, and I got some Christmas cards. So this will be a good way to use up that extra Christmas paper that you have, or it's something unique where it's not just the standard one card you open. And there you go. Any questions? I see you guys all working hard on the card. Well, that's it for my fun fold class. Thanks
Awesome.
for joining.
That's great. Thank you so much, Christina. That was awesome. I'll stop the recording now, and then if anybody wants to do show and tell, or if they have further questions, we can do that.